I thought I would pause in my packing as I pack my suitcase here to take a vacation to do a quick Friday reads. I'm thinking about what books to take with me, and that got me thinking about what I've read and what I intend to read, which got me thinking about Friday reads. So I only read a couple of books this past week. One of them was the 20th issue of the Feathertail Review, titled The Unfinished Issue. I really love this one, not as much as issue 19, but it was quite good. The back says, "This issue includes a man in a pigeon suit, the inconsequential existence of a Canadian politician, unconfirmed details of a Confederate monument on the moon, the failed story of a failed archaeologist." That one was probably the best in the collection. "Inside access to Toronto's only cosmetic surgery clinic for household pets, death and hazelnut cocoa spread at Maple Leaf Gardens, an unfinished joke delivered by a guy on a golf course, plus 41,781 words in English and 2 in Latin. Designed in Ontario by aging bipeds, assembled in Manitoba by manned lasers, trimmed with the traditional imprecision of Saxon monks, best before October 2018. Feathertail Review is always quite funny. I'd recommend you check it out if you'd like a humorous lit magazine that will make you laugh. After I finished reading that, I read a book that I picked up for $1 at Black Squirrel Books in Ottawa. And that is Rereadings, edited by Anne Faidman, the author of Exlibris. I'm getting a tickle in my throat here. 17 writers revisit books they love. So this was a very interesting collection of essays that made me feel very nostalgic about the books that I read growing up, and even the ones I've been reading the last couple of years. And these essays by various writers deal with looking back on books that were read in childhood and the feeling of rereading those again in adulthood, 10, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years later, and how our perceptions of books change over time and how we get different things from books at different points in our lives. So a very good collection of essays here. I also read Ripening by Valerie Taylor. This is the conclusion to the Erika Frohnman series. And this is one published in 1988. And it was almost as good as the last Valerie Taylor that I read. Why am I forgetting the title now? Let me look behind me for the title. Prism. It was almost as good as Prism. Like Prism, this is a book about two women in love in older age, past middle age. A lot of it is them looking back on what happened over their lives and coming to terms with the thought of coming out publicly in the 1980s with joining that gay rights movement and not being in the closet anymore, and also with coming to terms with family who abandoned them upon finding out that they were gay earlier in life. Beautifully written book. All of Valerie Taylor's books are beautifully written, and this is probably my third favorite. Prism is my favorite, and Return to Lesbos the second favorite, and then Ripening. Then I read a new release this week. I know, shocker, I actually read a new release, but I pre-ordered this and got it the day it came out from Amazon, and that is Lee on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. This is the sequel to Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda. And the reason I bought this is because I really enjoyed the first book in the series. And then when I heard that Lee is bisexual, I really wanted to check it out. because I myself am bisexual, and I've never actually read a novel where a woman identifies as bisexual explicitly. So often, especially in older books, they think of themselves as lesbians. They don't use the term bisexual. And this was a really, 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 really good book. Lee is a very likable character. I related to her a lot. I think she had a somewhat similar personality to the high school version of me. She's also a Slytherin, and I'm a Slytherin, so there's that. I did have some issues with the ending. It was a little too picture perfect there, and they don't really deal with one friend who's obviously going to feel a little bit alienated and betrayed. They never deal with that, and it's just kind of sudden, the ending. I mean, the entire book builds up to it, but there's a few things that don't add up, especially when you consider the first book in the series, because there's no indication really that Abby is interested in Lee in the way that she is in this book. In the first book, she's definitely going for Nick, and then she ditches him based on the excuse that she doesn't want to have a long distance relationship. That doesn't seem to be entirely it, and a relationship develops between her and her friend Lee, who she has supposedly liked since they first met. If we ignore the first book, this is a cute story, and it was very enjoyable to read. I might do a proper video discussion on that book later once I put my thoughts together in a more organized way. I think I'm rambling a little bit trying to express exactly what I think about it. Then I dove into a book that arrived on my doorstep this week. It's used, it's got somebody else's notes in it, which I'm finding quite interesting, because every once in a while they'll be like, what the fuck? And they, as in like WTF in the their notes to things they've underlined. And they've also underlined what I would call problematic passages, because the book does deal with rape and with relationships and women in the workforce. So this is The Girls in 3B by Valerie Taylor. I'm continuing on with my exploration of Valerie Taylor. This is one of her most famous ones. As you can see, it was published in the Femme Fatales series. So far, I'm not loving it. It's a good story, but I'm waiting for that lesbian pulp aspect to emerge. I am almost 100 pages in, and so far I'm not exactly sure who might be the lesbian in here. I'm assuming it's the woman named Barbie, because she's the only one who isn't throwing herself at her boss or hooking up with several guys on campus. Barbie isn't chasing men, so I'm assuming she's the lesbian one. I mean, it could be one of the others. But so far, 3 friends have moved to the city, and they've got a cheap apartment, and they're establishing themselves in their lives. And I'm waiting to see what happens next. I'm waiting to see who Barbie, I'm assuming, falls in love with. A good novel otherwise, though. Like, it's well written, it's interesting. I'm just kind of waiting for that lesbian pulp bit of the lesbian pulp novel to emerge. I prefer the ones where we get an indication of the plot right off, as opposed to kind of a meandering into it. I'm probably going to finish this later tonight or tomorrow on the train. And the only other paperback book I'm taking with me on my vacation is Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, which I took on vacation with me a year ago and never read. So now I'm taking it on vacation with me again, and I do intend to finally read it. I'm taking my Kindle, so I'll have a few books on there. I'm not sure what yet. and I'll have Audible with me. I'm working my way through Joseph Borden's The Orenda. I'll be finishing that. I've only got a few chapters left. Probably a 3-star book there. It's nothing fantastic, but it is enjoyable and interesting. And then of course I have lots of books at my parents' place, and I'm going to be going book shopping at a couple of used bookstores and to a book sale, so I won't be at a loss for reading material.